kicks in. Congratulations, chosen one. Your suffering just got evicted, and it's never coming back. Let that sink in. For years you've been walking through fire that never seemed to end. You've carried storms that looked permanent, battles that felt endless, and trials that made you wonder if God had forgotten your address. But here's the truth no one tells you. Even the darkest seasons have an expiration date. Psychologists say the human brain remembers trauma longer than joy. It lingers, it echoes, it replays. But spiritually, the opposite is true. Once a chosen one survives the breaking point, the pain loses its right to follow them into the next chapter. What tormented you yesterday simply doesn't have clearance to step into your tomorrow. And here's where the humor kicks in. Hell thought you were a forever subscription. They assumed you'd be stuck in pain on auto-renew like Netflix charging your card without permission. But God just hit the cancel button, and no matter how much they beg, your suffering won't get reinstated. This isn't optimism, it's reality. You've passed the test. The contract is void, the cycle is broken. The very thing that was designed to bury you has already served its only purpose, to prove you are unshakable. And from this day forward, the words stand firm. You will never have to go through that again. Number one, what tried to break you cannot repeat its cycle. What tried to break you cannot repeat its cycle because cycles only work on the unhealed. Once you've walked through the furnace and endured what most people would collapse under, the pattern itself loses its grip. The reason it felt so brutal and so relentless was because it wasn't just an attack. It was the enemy's attempt to create a loop to keep you circling in pain, disappointment, and defeat. Cycles of suffering are designed to drain people until they lose their fight. But here's the truth. You broke the loop by outlasting it. That season was not random. It was calculated to feel endless. You might have noticed how the pain kept repeating in different disguises. Betrayal after betrayal, loss after loss, setback after setback. That wasn't coincidence. It was spiritual design. Darkness survives by recycling misery. If one weapon works against you, it tries it again and again until you break. But when you didn't break, something happened in the unseen. The cycle collapsed on itself. Think about it. How many times did the same lesson show up in your life wearing a different face? How many times did you ask yourself, why does this keep happening to me? It kept happening because the enemy had confidence that you'd eventually surrender to the pattern. But the moment you endured long enough without folding, the pattern was destroyed at its root. That's why it can never repeat itself with the same force again. There's a reason survivors have a different kind of authority. It's not just because they made it out, it's because their spirit now carries immunity. You didn't just survive what tried to destroy you, you exhausted it, you drained it of its energy, and it has nothing left to feed on in your life. The suffering had an assignment, and you fulfilled it. That's why you will never have to walk that road again. The cycle has expired. The enemy doesn't have the power to invent new torment out of thin air. It relies on patterns, generational wounds, familiar triggers. You've already disarmed the most dangerous ones by refusing to bow. So what tried to break you once cannot repeat itself. It's over permanently. You've not only outlasted the storm, you've shut down the system that produced it. And that is why you will never face that same nightmare again. Number two, the contract of suffering has expired. The contract of suffering has expired because pain always comes with terms, even if they're hidden from you. Nothing you went through was endless, even though it felt that way. Every hardship has a purpose, a limit, and an expiration date set in the spiritual realm before it ever touched your life. The reason it dragged on for so long is because there were lessons, strengths, and revelations that could not be rushed. Once you absorbed them, once you grew into the person you were meant to become through it, the contract had no more ground to stand on. It could not extend itself, and it could not demand more from you. Think of suffering as a legal case in a courtroom you never saw. Every battle you faced had conditions attached. The permission given to the enemy to touch certain parts of your life was never permanent. It had a boundary. The tears you shed, the prayers you whispered in exhaustion, the nights you almost gave up, all of it was accounted for in that contract, and when the appointed time ran out, the case against you was dismissed. That's why now you feel a shift, a release, a weightlifting that you can't fully explain. It's not luck, it's not coincidence, it's spiritual law. The most dangerous lie pain tells you is that it will never end. That lie is designed to weaken you, to make you collapse before you reach the finish line. But because you endured past the point where most people break, you've lived to see the clause that pain never reveals until the appointed time. And that time has been reached. The contract has been fulfilled in your life, and it cannot renew itself. This is why the future won't look like your past. Even if the enemy wanted to bring the same destruction back, it no longer has legal access. You've served the sentence, you've paid the cost, and heaven has marked it as complete. What once held authority to enter your life has now been stripped of all rights to touch you again. Your suffering did not outlive you, you outlived it. The contract ended the moment you walked out of the season carrying wisdom instead of defeat. And because it's expired, you'll never have to face that same pain again. It is finished. Congratulations, chosen one. Your suffering just got evicted, and it's never coming back.